It starts quietly, almost too quietly, like the softest hum in the back of your mind. You walk through life, smiling, working, talking, as though everything is fine. But beneath that surface, something stirs. It's not loud enough to make you stop, not strong enough to break you yet, but it's there, growing, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. It's the storm that no one else can see, the battle that you fight behind your eyes, a battle that wears no armor and carries no weapons. Sometimes you catch yourself staring at nothing, lost in thoughts you didn't even choose. Sometimes you laugh at a joke, but your chest feels tight. You scroll through your phone, trying to drown it out, but no matter how loud the world gets, that silent storm keeps rumbling just beneath the surface. You think you're alone in this. You think you're the only one fighting this invisible war. But the truth is, almost everyone you pass by on the street is carrying their own silent chaos. There's a weight pressing on your chest that no one else can see. You become skilled at pretending, at wearing the mask that says, "I'm fine." But inside, you feel like a house on fire with no way to scream. You sit in rooms filled with people, yet somehow feel completely disconnected, like you're floating just outside of your own life, watching it happen. Some nights, you can't even remember who you were before the battle started. You can't trace the moment when you stopped feeling free and started feeling trapped inside your own mind. You just know that somewhere along the way, you stopped talking about it. You stopped telling people that you're not okay. Maybe they didn't notice, or maybe you didn't want them to. You became the master of silence, the artist of hiding pain, the champion of surviving what no one else can see. The world teaches you to push through, to stay strong, to get over it. But what they don't tell you is that ignoring the battle doesn't make it go away. It grows in the shadows. It feeds on your silence. And the more you pretend you're okay, the more it tightens its grip on you. You start to believe that maybe this is just who you are now. Maybe you're meant to carry this forever. You learn how to smile without feeling joy, how to answer "I'm good" without meaning a single word. The people around you see the surface, the version of you that functions, that shows up, that gets things done. But inside, you know you're running on empty, and the silence is getting heavier. You lie in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if anyone else feels like this. Wondering if they too have conversations with themselves they're too afraid to share. Your heart beats a little faster, your chest feels a little tighter, but you stay silent, because that's what you've always done. You tell yourself tomorrow will be better, but deep down you're not sure if you believe it. The weight you carry isn't made of stone, it's made of emotions you've locked away, and it's not just sadness. It's anger, guilt, regret, fear, disappointment. It's the war you fight against your own thoughts. It's the constant pull between who you want to be and the feelings that keep dragging you back. Some days you try to run from it. You bury yourself in work, in distractions, in anything that keeps you from sitting alone with your thoughts. But the truth is, you can't outrun a storm that lives inside you. It will follow you everywhere you go. It doesn't knock on your door politely. It crashes in when you least expect it. On quiet mornings, in traffic jams, while you're brushing your teeth. It creeps in when your guard is down, reminding you that the battle is not over, reminding you that you've still got unfinished business inside your own mind. There are moments when you wonder if you're weak for feeling this way. If you should have figured it out by now, but you're not weak, you're not broken, you are human, and what no one tells you is that this silent battle is more common than you think. People walk through life carrying weights you'll never see. The strongest people you know might be the ones fighting the hardest battles behind closed doors. This is the part that most never talk about. They talk about success, about confidence, about achievement, but they rarely talk about the invisible wars that lead to those victories. The secret battle is not about what's happening around you. It's about what's happening within you. It's about the conversations you have with yourself in the quiet moments. It's about the emotions you've been taught to suppress. It's about the fear of being seen for who you really are underneath the mask. And the most dangerous part is, the more you ignore it, the more it shapes you. It decides how you see the world, how you treat people, how you talk to yourself. Left unchecked, the battle within can make you your own worst enemy. But here's the thing. You don't have to win this battle overnight. You don't have to have all the answers right now. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that the storm exists. Sometimes the first step is simply to stop pretending it's not there. Because the moment you recognize it, the moment you stop hiding from it, something powerful happens. The storm begins to lose its power. It's not that the emotions disappear, but they stop controlling you. You begin to see that you are not your anger, you are not your anxiety, you are not your past, you are the one observing all of it. And that realization is the beginning of your freedom. This battle you're fighting is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you're still alive, that you still care, that you still have something worth fighting for. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to carry it all alone, but you do have to face it. You do have to step into the storm, because on the other side of it, there's a version of you that is calmer, stronger, and more in control than you've ever imagined. The world might never see the battle you're fighting, but when you win it, the world will see the difference in you. And maybe, just maybe, someone else who's quietly struggling will find the courage to face their own storm because of you. The most dangerous battles are the ones you don't even know you're fighting. It's one thing to feel sadness or anger and recognize it, but what happens when you can't even see where the pain is coming from? What happens when you walk through life thinking it's the people around you who make you upset, when in reality, the true enemy is hidden deep within your own patterns, your own memories, your own mind? You start thinking the world is against you, that life keeps throwing you problems. But the real problem is the way you've been trained to think, the way you've been programmed to react, the way you've been conditioned to see yourself. It sneaks up on you, this hidden enemy, because it disguises itself so well. It wears the face of old stories you've told yourself 1,000 times. It hides inside your comfort zones, inside the excuses you whisper when no one's listening. It tells you, this is just the way I am, as if change isn't possible, as if growth isn't your right. But the hidden enemy is not just fear or anger, it's what fuels them. It's the tiny, unnoticed triggers that pull you into the same cycles again and again. You get angry when someone ignores you, but it's not about them. It's about the old wound inside you that still believes you're not worthy of attention. You feel anxious when you face new challenges, but it's not the challenge. It's the story you've told yourself that you're not good enough to handle it. These triggers are everywhere, built into the foundation of your life, and you've walked past them so many times that you've stopped noticing them. You think you're reacting to life, but you're really reacting to old scars that haven't healed. Sometimes the hidden enemy speaks in your own voice. You hear it when you doubt yourself, when you think you're not capable, when you convince yourself to give up before you've even started. It's the soft whisper that tells you to stay safe, stay small, stay invisible. You listen to it because it sounds familiar. It sounds like you, but it's not you. It's the collection of every fear, every failure, every moment you were told you weren't enough. It's the echo of old disappointments replaying in your head, shaping your choices, stealing your courage. And the hardest part is, you don't always notice that you've handed the steering wheel of your life to that voice. You tell yourself you're protecting your heart by not trying. You tell yourself you're just being realistic when you back away from something that scares you. You tell yourself you're too tired to change, that maybe you're meant to live this way, quietly, safely, without taking risks. But these are the lies that the hidden enemy feeds you. It doesn't want you to see beyond the walls you've built. It doesn't want you to question the way you've always reacted. It thrives in the space where you stop looking for answers. It wins when you accept that this is all there is. You walk into familiar situations and feel the same emotions rise up, thinking that the world is pushing your buttons, but those buttons were installed a long time ago. Maybe it was the way you were spoken to as a child. Maybe it was the people who abandoned you. Maybe it was the expectations you could never meet. Somewhere along the way, you learned to carry certain beliefs about yourself. You learned to expect rejection, so now you see it even when it isn't there. You learn to expect failure, so you start pulling back before you've even tried. You learn to guard your emotions so tightly that now you can't remember how to let them breathe. And life will keep showing you these hidden patterns over and over again, through different people, different moments, until you finally see them for what they are. Every argument that escalates too quickly, every time you shut down when you should speak up, every time you choose the easier path when you know you should push forward. These are not random. These are signs pointing you toward the hidden enemy. You think you're fighting the world, but you're really fighting your own reflection. The moment you begin to question your automatic reactions is the moment you start seeing the truth. Why do I get defensive so quickly? Why do I feel like I have to prove myself all the time? Why do I run from uncomfortable conversations? The answers are buried under years of stories you've believed without ever challenging them. You've accepted them as facts, when in reality, they are just emotional habits. And like all habits, they can be broken. But you can't break what you can't see. So you have to slow down. You have to notice the spaces between your triggers and your reactions. You have to catch the hidden enemy in the act. You have to pause and ask yourself, is this really me, or is this my fear talking? Is this really who I am, or is this the voice of the past controlling me? The more you ask, the more you'll see that so much of what you thought was your personality is actually just your protection. So much of what you thought was unchangeable is simply unexamined. The enemy hides in the comfort of the familiar. It tells you that it's safer to stay the same than to face the unknown. It tells you that you're not ready, not smart enough, not strong enough. But these are not facts, these are walls, and they begin to crack the moment you decide to question them. It's not an instant war that you win in one big moment. It's a slow, deliberate battle where you start showing up for yourself in ways you never did before. You begin to push past your patterns. You begin to choose differently. You begin to see that fear is not a stop sign. It's an invitation to grow. When you finally meet the hidden enemy face to face, it doesn't look like a monster. It looks like a younger version of you. It looks like the part of you that wanted to be loved, to be accepted, to be enough. And that's when you realize the battle was never about destroying that part of you. It was about healing it. You're not here to fight yourself. You're here to understand yourself, to support yourself, to finally give yourself permission to move beyond the limits you've lived in for so long. And when you do, you begin to rewrite the story. You begin to dismantle the lies. You begin to win the battle that no one else even knows you're fighting, and the victory will not always be loud. Sometimes it will look like peace. Sometimes it will feel like freedom. And sometimes it will simply mean that you've finally found your way back to yourself. There comes a moment when you realize that the battle you've been fighting inside isn't going to end by itself. It doesn't simply fade away because you're tired of it. It doesn't vanish because you wish it would. It stays with you until you make the decision to face it with awareness, with deliberate effort, with a kind of courage you didn't even know you had. For most of your life, you've been reacting to the world on autopilot. Things happen, people speak, situations unfold, and before you even think, you've already reacted. You get angry before you understand why. You feel anxious before you've even processed what's really going on. You withdraw, you attack, you break down without ever taking the time to pause. And that's how the silent war continues, day after day, moment after moment, because the enemy feeds off your unconscious reactions. It wins when you don't notice, it thrives when you live without awareness, but there's a power that most people never tap into. It's the power to pause, the power to stop in the middle of the emotional storm, and decide how you want to respond instead of being dragged by old patterns. It sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest things you'll ever learn to do, because your emotions don't like to be interrupted. They want to move fast. They want to take over. They want you to lash out, to retreat, to spiral into overthinking. And yet, the moment you choose to pause, even for just a breath, you begin to break the chain. You begin to regain the control you thought you'd lost. The pause is not weakness. It's not hesitation. It's power. It's stepping into the space between what happens to you and what you choose to do next. When you begin to live with conscious control, you start to see that you are not your emotions. You are not your anger. You are not your fear. You are the observer of those emotions. You are the one watching them rise, watching them fall, and the more you practice watching, the more you realize you don't have to obey them. You can sit in the middle of the fire without being burned. You can feel the emotion fully without letting it control you. And when you do that, something shifts inside you. You start to feel stronger, steadier, calmer. You start to trust yourself again. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a daily battle, a quiet discipline that no one else will see. You catch yourself about to explode with anger, but you pause. You catch yourself about to fall into a pit of overthinking, but you pull yourself back. You catch yourself about to speak words you'll regret, but you choose silence instead. And every time you do, you win a small victory. Every time you choose to respond with awareness, you chip away at the power the old patterns have over you. This is how you begin to master your emotions. Not by pretending they don't exist, not by burying them, but by learning to sit with them, to face them, to move through them with your eyes wide open. The world will keep testing you. People will still trigger you. Life will still throw storms your way. But the battle changes when you stop reacting blindly. You begin to see the space, the choice, the control that has always been available to you. It's not about forcing yourself to feel good all the time. It's about building the strength to choose your response even when you don't feel good. It's about standing firm even when your emotions are pulling you in every direction. That's what emotional mastery really is. It's not about becoming a cold, emotionless person. It's about becoming someone who can feel deeply without being controlled by those feelings. There will be moments when you fall back into old habits. You will still get angry sometimes. You will still feel fear. You will still overthink. But the difference is that now you will notice. Now you will be awake. Now you will have the tools to pull yourself back. And that's what matters. Progress is not about perfection. It's about catching yourself faster, recovering sooner, choosing better a little more often each day. Some days it will feel exhausting. You will feel like giving in, like letting the emotions take over because it's easier in the moment. But you have to remember that short-term comfort leads to long-term chaos. Reacting without thinking might feel good for a second, but it leaves scars. Responding with awareness might feel difficult in the moment, but it builds strength that lasts. You don't build mastery in the easy moments. You build it in the fire, in the heat of the battle, when everything in you wants to fall apart, but you choose to stay calm. And it's not just about surviving your own emotions. It's about what you build in the space that calmness creates. When you stop reacting out of anger, you create space for patience. When you stop overthinking, you create space for clarity. When you stop running from fear, you create space for courage. You begin to build a life that is not controlled by automatic reactions, but shaped by conscious choices. And those choices add up. They become the foundation of a stronger you, a version of you that can handle life without being thrown around by every emotional wave. It's a quiet kind of strength, the kind no one else might notice, but you will feel it. You will walk into situations that used to break you, and you will stand tall. You will face conversations that used to terrify you, and you will stay grounded. You will feel emotions rise like a storm, and you will watch them pass like clouds. You will no longer be a prisoner to your own mind. You will no longer be a slave to your own triggers. You will have built something unshakable inside you. And this kind of strength doesn't just change you. It changes the way you show up for other people. It changes the way you lead, the way you love, the way you listen. You become someone who can hold space for others without being pulled into their storms. You become someone who can offer calm in a world that is always rushing, always reacting, always spinning out of control. You become a lighthouse in the dark, not because you don't feel the waves, but because you've learned how to stand tall in the middle of them. The path to this kind of mastery is not glamorous. It's slow, it's repetitive, it's filled with moments when you will want to give up. But if you keep showing up, if you keep choosing the pause, if you keep choosing to respond instead of react, you will begin to see the power you've had all along. You will begin to realize that you are not here to be controlled by life. You are here to master it, to shape it, to live it fully, to experience it deeply, without being consumed by the storms that pass through. And when you do, the battle no one else could see will finally be one you've won. The truth is, winning the battle inside doesn't look like some grand celebration. It doesn't feel like standing on top of a mountain with the world cheering you on. Sometimes it feels like sitting alone in your room, breathing deeply, realizing that this time you didn't break, you didn't explode, you didn't collapse under the weight of your emotions. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's subtle, but the weight of those small victories builds something powerful inside you. You begin to see that strength isn't always loud. Strength is often found in the quiet decision to keep going, to keep fighting, to keep choosing the better path even when no one else notices. That's the part people don't talk about. They show you the results, but they don't tell you about the lonely nights, the internal struggles, the hours spent sitting with your own thoughts and choosing not to run from them. The final stage of mastering your emotions is not about controlling life, it's about understanding that life will never fully be in your control. There will always be things you can't predict, people you can't change, situations you can't control. But your response, your reaction, the way you hold yourself through it all, that is always yours to shape, and that is where freedom lies, not in changing the world, but in changing the way you move through it. In the past, you may have felt like a victim of your emotions. You may have believed that your triggers owned you, that your anger controlled you, that your fear directed your life. But now you see that while you cannot erase those emotions, you can learn to ride them. You can learn to walk through the storm without letting it tear you apart from the inside. You stop seeing yourself as broken. You stop believing that your emotional struggles make you weak. You realize that these battles were never a sign of failure. They were a sign that you were alive, that you were growing, that you were pushing against old limits. The people who never feel the struggle are usually the ones who never left their comfort zone. But you stepped out. You faced the discomfort. You walked into the parts of yourself you used to avoid, and now you carry a kind of wisdom that only comes from experience. You know the sound of your own fear. You know the weight of your own sadness. You know the fire of your own anger. And because you know them, you no longer have to fear them. The world outside will still test you. You will still face disappointments, failures, heartbreaks, and the sharp edges of life. But now you have built something inside you that those things cannot destroy. You have built patience. You have built resilience. You have built the ability to pause, to breathe, to choose. And when you live this way, you become harder to shake. You become harder to push off your path. People will wonder how you remain calm when everything seems to be falling apart. They will wonder how you move forward with steady steps when life tries to knock you down. They will see your peace, but they won't see the years it took you to build it. That's the silent reward of mastering your emotions. You start to live differently. You start to see life through a different lens. You realize that not every battle is worth fighting. You realize that some things that used to consume you no longer even deserve your attention. You stop chasing every argument. You stop reacting to every opinion. You stop giving your energy to things that drain you. You become selective with your time, your focus, your emotions. You begin to protect your peace like it's your greatest treasure because you've seen what it costs to lose it. You start setting boundaries, not to push people away, but to protect the version of yourself you've worked so hard to build. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop begging for approval from those who were never meant to validate your worth. You stop trying to control how others see you because you've learned to trust how you see yourself. And that's where real freedom begins, not in being liked by everyone, but in being fully at peace with who you are, even if no one else understands. There will still be moments when the old patterns try to creep back in. You will still hear the echo of your old doubts, your old fears, your old anger. But now you recognize them. You see them for what they are, just old voices from a version of you that no longer leads your life. And you'll have the strength to let those voices pass without giving them power. You will have the clarity to choose differently. You will have the awareness to pause, to listen, to understand, instead of reacting out of habit. As you continue walking this path, you may find that life feels lighter. Not because your problems disappeared, but because you stopped carrying the extra weight of emotional baggage that was never really yours to hold. You start forgiving yourself for the times you fell apart. You start offering yourself the same patience you've always given to others. You realize that you were never meant to fight your emotions. You were meant to guide them, to work with them, to use them as signals instead of chains. And when you reach this point, you begin to notice the beautiful shift that happens in your relationships. You start attracting peace because you are peace. You start building deeper connections because you are no longer afraid to show up fully without the armor. You stop hiding behind walls of silence or layers of anger. You become more honest with yourself and with the people around you. And that honesty brings you closer to the kind of life you've always wanted to live. A life where you are not controlled by fear, not owned by anger, not limited by doubt. Mastering your emotions doesn't make life perfect. It makes you powerful in the face of imperfection. It teaches you that real strength is not about never feeling weak. It's about rising every time you fall. It's about showing up for yourself again and again, even on the days when you feel like giving up. It's about building trust within yourself so deeply that you no longer look to the outside world to tell you who you are. And in this quiet, steady way, you win the battle, not by defeating your emotions, but by becoming the master of them. Not by silencing your heart, but by learning to listen to it without being consumed. Not by erasing the storms, but by learning to stand in them with grace, with patience, with strength. You realize that the secret battle no one talks about was never really about the world. It was always about you. And now, you are finally winning.